Hello, today I'm going to go over multiplying and dividing integers. So that'll be the positive and negative whole numbers. Some of it is going to be kind of review as far as the process of multiplying and dividing, so I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to get into the rules when we have negatives involved. So we're going to start with multiplying integers. This is going to be done just like you've been doing. So we have 23 times 22. You can set that up. 23 times 22. Do your multiplying. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Add the 0. 2 times 3, 6. 2 times 2, 4. Add it together and you get 506. So the process doesn't change when we're dealing with integers. It's still going to be the same process. The only thing that's different is you're going to have a new rule. So when we're multiplying integers and we have negatives involved, we've got a real simple rule. To start with, if the signs are different. So this time I have negative 23 times 22. We're still going to do the multiplying. We're still going to get 506. The difference is the rule. If the signs are different, the outcome is going to always be a negative value. So again, when the signs are different, multiply the absolute values and the signs will be negative. Here we have two negative values. The same numbers, negative 23, negative 22, their absolute values are the same as our very beginning problem. We know that the answer is 506. The rule that we're going to use for negatives, if the signs are the same, we will have a positive value. So you notice that 506 is the same 506 as when we had positive 23 times positive 22. So our rule, if the signs are the same, we have a negative and a negative being multiplied together, our answer is always going to be a positive value. So it's not too hard of a rule when multiplying. Signs are the same, positive. Signs are different, negative. So here we have some examples that I can demonstrate this. So 2 times 2 is equal to 4. We know that if we have multiplying, then that means that we're going to add the same thing multiple times. So here we have two places, and we're going to add that same value twice. So if I duplicate this, because I'm adding it twice, as you can see, our answer is 4. Well, here we have negative 2 times 2, which means negative 2 plus negative 2. So we have negative 2, and we're going to duplicate that. So negative 2 plus negative 2. As you can see, we end up with negative 4. Now here we have a little bit trickier. It's negative 2 minus or times negative 2, which means that it's negative 2. But we're going to do that twice in the opposite direction. So we're going to end up with the same thing we have up here. So negative 2 added together negative 2 times. So that tells it gets tricky. So the number line is hard to tell, because you would think you would do negative 2 and you're adding it negative 2 times. Well, that negative means that we're going in the opposite direction for this. And the number lines are kind of hard to see that clearly. So that's why we're going to use our rule. A negative times a negative is always going to be a positive. A negative times a positive is always going to be a negative. Of course, positive times positive is always positive. So that's our multiplying. Not too bad. like I said, the process is still the same. The only thing different is our rules. The signs are the same. We have the positive. The signs are different. We have a negative. Alright, division. Again, we're going to do dividing just like you've been dividing since the first day you did it. So here in my example, I have 238 divided by 17. It's going to give us 14. As you can see, I did the long division. 17 goes into 23 once. We do our subtraction, we end 6, we bring down our 8. 17 goes into 68 4 times. So that's our ending answer. Positive divided by a positive gave us a positive answer. And the division process is the same. So now, just like I did with multiplying, I'm going to start throwing the negatives in there. So now I have negative 238 divided by 17. We're going to do the same steps. 17 goes into 23 once, we get 6, bring down our 8, 17 goes into 68 4 times. This is where we put our rules. If the signs are different, we have a negative value, just like multiplying. If the signs are the same, we have a positive value. So the rule for multiplying and dividing is exactly the same rule. Signs are different, we have a negative answer. If the signs are the same, we have a positive answer. And, so here we have the example, negative 238 divided by negative 17. We go through our process, 17 goes into 23, blah, blah, blah. We end up with a positive 14 because the signs are the same. It's going to be a positive answer. And here is our proof that really shows how this works and why this works. If we use our fact families, 238 divided by 17 is equal to 14. Because we know that that's a true statement, we also know that 17 times 14 gives us 238, and 14 times 17 gives us 238, just using our fact families. Well, if we set up our fact families for a negative 238 divided by 17 is equal to negative 14, you can see right here where our multiplying rules come into effect. Our signs are different, so our answer has to be a negative. Our signs are different for this situation, negative 14 times 17, and our answer is negative because the signs are different. So that's the proof of the division component of why that works that way. So here we have negative 238 divided by negative 17 is equal to 14. We use our fact families. We know that negative 238 divided by 14 is negative 17. Signs are different. Our answer is negative. And from our fact families, negative 17 times 14 is equal to negative 238. 14 times negative 17 is negative 238. The signs are different. Our answers are negative. Just using our fact families to prove why that rule applies to division also. In a nutshell, that is it. That's the end of the notes. That's the end of this little mini lesson on multiplying and dividing by negatives. What you need to understand is that the division rule and the multiplying rule are the same. If we have two signs that are the same, we end up with a positive answer. If we have different signs, we have a negative answer. And if you look at my fancy little picture down here, I can take and cover up a portion of this. Sort. I'm going to make this so you can see through it. Let me redo this. Alrighty. So here we have our circle. If I have a negative times a positive, so I've got that's my multiplying triangle, then my answer, of course, is a negative answer. If I take and I do it this way, if my multiplying or dividing have different signs, so a negative times a positive or a positive divided by a negative, what have you, you notice our answer is negative. Now if I come up here and I do a negative times a negative or a negative divided by a negative, we know our answer is positive. I don't have a picture for the positives because we know anything positive and positive is always going to be positive. So I didn't really need to add that picture to it. So that's my fancy little picture. And it kind of looks like a little face, kind of squinty-eyed face with a, because it just looks cool that way. So again, if the signs are the same, the answer will be positive. If the signs are different, the answer will be negative. And this is true for multiplying and dividing. That is the end of my lesson. Now, I'm going to know you watched my lesson because you're going to put the password in. And the password for this lesson is little face, because it makes a little face. Alright, I hope this helps you out, and I will see you online.